In this video, we have the one and only personal finance legend, Robert Kiyosaki, author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I do want to warn you, he is going to cuss a lot if you are sensitive to those words or you have a young person around. This might not be the interview for them. So I just wanted to give you an advisory for that. So make sure you hit the like button on this side right over there and this side right over there. And without further ado, we're going to dive right into what I think is one of the most amazing Robert Kiyosaki interviews you will ever hear. So leave a comment down below and let me know what you think. And here we go. In this interview, we don't need a huge introduction because we actually have the author of the #1 personal finance best-selling book of our times, and that's Robert Kiyosaki. During our last interview, between our live full interview and all the clips, we got about 1 million views, and so it's exciting to have you back, Robert.
Well, thank you. I enjoy talking to the younger generation now that I'm the older generation, but it's fun.
So point number one is you realized I got a haircut. Some other people on my comments were asking me to get a haircut, and you said, hey, your hair is shorter. And then point number two is I figured I'd start us with a laugh because, you know, I'm confused and I'm personally afraid for what's going on. And like, you know, you are to millions of people. You're like a mentor and kind of like a superhero that wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad because you were, and this was like a superhero to a lot of people because it helped people escape the system and escape this matrix. And like, you've been spot on, and we're in a really weird time right now. Unemployment's so high. People are still locked into their houses. There's a lot of places doing full new rounds of lockdowns. The money printing. This is a weird time. So what's going on in the world, Robert? And what do we do about it? Like, what should we do?
Well, first of all, I think this technology is amazing, you know, because this was not possible when I was in my 20s. You know, this is fantastic. And it's really a great time to be entrepreneurs. It's really what it is. But it's also an interesting time because I think we're going communist. And I'm not Republican or Democrat, so I'm not in that fight. Donald Trump is a friend of mine, but I still respect your right to choose the communist side, which is Biden and Kamala. But anyway, I thought I would talk about communism versus capitalism. And I think what is disturbing young people like you is I think there's something inside of you that knows we're going communist. And when you look back through history, this has been predicted for years and years and years. So I'll give you the exact time I changed. It was January 3rd, 1972, and I landed at Norton Air Force Base in California. I was a Marine lieutenant, and I was bringing my 16 Marines back home. We all came back home alive in one piece, and that's the job of an officer. And as the jet taxied up to the Norton Air Force Base, the guy in charge of the flight, there was Army, Navy, Air Force, all these guys returning from Vietnam. And he says, gentlemen, America has changed. And we looked out the window and we could see thousands of war protesters, hippies, you know, yelling and screaming and baby killers and all this. So the officer in charge of the flight says, if you guys have civilian clothes, or civvies as we called them, when you get into the terminal, change immediately and see if you can disappear into the crowd. Now, as a Marine, impossible, because they all look like you, and I had no hair. You know, we had shaved heads. So that's when I knew something was wrong, and we got off the plane, and I had to get my 16. Once we cleared the main gate, then we ran into all of these hippies and war protesters and draft dodgers and calling us baby killers and all that. And so I could still hear the guy saying, gentlemen, America has changed. And I think what happened there, this is my opinion, is that these hippies and communists and socialists, they invaded our school system because that's where Berkeley is, and UC Berkeley and that whole area. And that infected Silicon Valley, it infected Hollywood, television, I'm afraid that what we fought for, we lost because communism has taken over America. And that's as blunt as I can say it to you. And November 10th is the Marine Corps birthday. So last November 10th, a few days ago, I was in Hilton Head, South Carolina with a 4-star general and 2 bird colonels. And, the Marines are pretty much red, white, and blue. We fight for our country. And the General Boomer stood up there and he says, Marines do not fight for Democrats and we don't fight for Republicans. And that's true. We fight for the Constitution. We fight for the Bill of Rights. And I think what's kind of sad is that our freedoms are being taken away. And this COVID-19, this last election, is still going on. But there's so much corruption inside our government today, and there's a definite push for Americans to go Marxist. And the problem is the average person has no idea who Marx was, and because they never studied it. I went to military school, academy in New York, and we studied military economics. And I don't know if you know this, but in school we teach Keynesian economics, John Maynard Keynes.
Yes.
Keynesian economics is socialist.
Right.
If you understand that, so our school system is 100% socialist. So what Keynes says is that you can print money, basically. He didn't say it directly that way, but he said you could print money. And so look at your generation. There's been more money printed in the last 6 months than was printed in the last 200 years of America. So when I understand, when I talk to young people like you, and you got families and all this stuff, it's our money system is toxic. I mean, it's collapsing underneath of us. So that's why I wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That's why, I said the rich don't work for money. Savers are losers. Your house is not an asset. And of course, all the academic elite, the PhDs who run the publishing houses and all this in New York, they attacked me. This is 25 years ago. They said, you don't know what you're talking about. How can you say your house is not an asset? How can you say the rich don't work for money? Because they're all idiots. They went to school. I went to military school. They went to traditional school. But it all begins, like what you now know, is Keynesian economics is socialist. You can print as much money as you like to solve our problems. And so I could ask you the question, I'm glad to hear that saying that you're wondering what the future holds, and so do I. But I can tell you right now, we're going communist, Marxist. And you can tell by the economics we teach in our schools. That's how you know.
Yeah, a lot to unpack there. So it's the economics, but it's also the way that they're socially and politically are responding that makes me think that we're headed towards a real type of communist type of situation. And it makes me, I'm concerned having a kid. I did not think, I'm like really wondering if it's going to get bad. Then you also saw the CEO for Qantas today in an interview that was on video. He said mandatory vaccines for all international travel. They're already looking at updating their terms of service. And you just kind of look at all this and I go, what do I do? I'm like, do I get 100 acres somewhere that has a river and animals? And like, I wonder how bad it's going to get. And I hate thinking like this because I look at it and it's not good. And I've been researching countries to buy another passport in. And I'm like, but I have a kid, and all my family's here. And like, I'm like, is it really going to get like that? And then I wonder, well, am I safer outside of America or inside it? Because we also, on top of all this type of stuff, we also have got this financial system on the verge of collapsing. And you said they printed so much this year. Think about how much they're going to have to print next year. I mean, how many people are unemployed? AOC just said yesterday that the only way to get this under control is to keep people in their house. Therefore, we should pay them to stay home. And I'm like, what do you think's going to happen in 2021? I mean, what do you think no one knows, right? We can only speculate the details, but the general theme, you've been very accurate. What do you think happens and as this plays out?
Well, let me go back to the original reason I wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad is what does our school teach us about money? Nothing.
Yeah.
Is that an accident? No. And so that's why when I was talking about taxiing up at Norton Air Force Base in this huge Air Force passenger plane, and I see all these hippies yelling and screaming at me, calling me a baby killer, throwing eggs at me. America changed. And then that was UC Berkeley and the whole California system. And then that affected Silicon Valley. It affected our judicial system. There's new evidence that, the FBI was out to get Trump. They tried to impeach him. And I'm not saying he's a good friend of mine. I'm not saying he's innocent. But I'm saying he stepped on something.
He's a nationalist, and he's got his bag of laundry with all of his issues, and there's many of them. But he's a nationalist versus a globalist with the slogan "Build Back Better," which what all of them have. I don't know if you saw Trudeau also the other day. He was talking about how COVID presents an opportunity for a reset. And I just did a video recently on the Great Reset in the World Economic Forum, and their advertisement that says by 2030, you'll own nothing, have no privacy, and be happy. What are you doing? Are you getting out of the country? I mean, what are you doing? You've seen this down the pipeline happening. Are you getting out of the country? I mean, are you just in like a 10x gated community with like all of your like weapons from when you were in service? What's going on? I mean, I know a lot of people try to cut you off too. I've seen interviews where like when you really were like, I think it's ended in a civil war. You step into my house, I'm going to blow you up. Like, like you were laying down the line, and everyone either said you're insane, or the people doing the interviews try to shut them down. And I told you, you tell me I'm fine. It's not like we need to monetize this video or something. We'll put it out on the internet. What do you think happens?
Well, it's like I said, I joined the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
Which already certifies me as nuts. and I don't, I'm not Republican or Democrat, but like our general said, General Boomer 4-star, he says, we don't fight for Republicans or Democrats, we fight for the Constitution, and we fight for the Bill of Rights, and our freedoms are being taken. That's when I get a little incensed, and I think the same thing for you. But most people don't even realize they're doing it through our monetary system, which goes back to 1971, when Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard, and that's when we went to Keynesian economics. Now, I ask my friends around here, my age, they don't know there's been Keynesian or Austrian or military economics. They don't know the difference. So all I'm saying is our academic system was hijacked around the same time Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard. So here comes your generation, and you're going, what's happening? This is not the America I know about. But then that's why I wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad in 1997. I published it. And I got turned down. I mean, I was called a quack and a weirdo for saying your house is not an asset. Savers are losers, and we are, and the rich don't work for money. But you look at who was criticizing me with all the academics, like the guys who run the Federal Reserve Bank, the guys who work for the government. Anybody who works for the government today is probably a criminal, because you have to be a criminal to work for the government, because you can't tell the truth. Do you know what I mean? I couldn't say this and keep my job. You couldn't say what you do and keep your job in the government. Right? Am I correct?
I mean, if you and I worked for any business and we published this video and let's say it got 1 million views, we would probably be asked to be fired from the job. I mean, neither one of us can fire ourselves, so.
Correct. And that's why we're the threat What we're doing now is the threat, because ABC, CNN, NBC, and all those, they can't stop us. Twitter can stop us. Facebook can stop us. Parler, and all this stuff, but we'll always find a way around it. And so that's why you hear me talking to guys your age, and they say, well, what about Bitcoin? I said, get as much as you can get, because Bitcoin's outside the system. Gold is outside the system. Silver's outside the system. And so that's why if you read this book here, it's called Fake, fake money, fake teachers, fake assets. The reason my generation is going to go bust is, I covered it in this book here, is who stole my pension. And the people that are stealing my generation's pension is the Fed, Wall Street, and the Treasury. And they're going to just suck that cash right out of our pensions. And then we'll be begging for AOC to save us. We want universal basic income. We're going to want MMT. We want the government to save us. That's communism.
So there's a lot, people talk a lot about gold and Bitcoin and silver, and I talk about it a lot. But I think that it's easy to get really excited about potential profits and forget what's actually happening on the larger and social, and it's a wealth bubble distraction that makes us slaves that are like, oh, but there's these bigger problems. So your book, Who Stole My Pension? So do you think that what happens now is we kind of move back to some semblance of normalcy where they basically just try to re-inflate the asset bubble again, and we wait until the next crisis happens when they need trillions of dollars 5 or 10 years from now for people's pensions? What do you think happens through 2021? And then we can talk a little bit more about the metals and Bitcoin.
Yeah, well, one of the guys, step back in time, again, Marx, who was in the 1800s and all this other stuff. What he said is communism would never take root in America because the American spirit is too strong. We're too entrepreneurial. So communism could not take root. So he said before communism could come in, we had to break the American spirit. We had to break the American spirit. And then they would beg for MMT, modern monetary theory, and UBI, and the check from the government, free education, free medical. It's everything Marx predicted. So I know I sound like a conspiracy guy, but all I am is a guy who went to military school, and I studied military economics. We studied different things in military school versus if I had gone to, University of Hawaii or something. So what we studied in military economics was the number of people that socialists killed.
What? Really?
It's amazing. Stalin killed, they estimate 26 million people. Hitler killed, Nazi stands for National Socialist. Get the relationship. But as military guys, that's what we study. We don't study, pixie dust and, AOC and tending bar and drinking and screwing. We study how many people did those fuckers kill.
Were you getting out of the country? What are you doing? I mean...
So let me tell you. So Hitler killed 18 million, 6 million Jews. Okay. Stalin killed something like 26 million, primarily via starvation.
Huh.
But the biggest murderer of all was Mao Zedong. And there were satellites. So when we were in the military, my uncle's with the CIA, Japanese guy, and they saw all of these trucks being moved towards the border. And they said, oh my God, China is going to go to war with Russia. It wasn't. What they found out, and this is classified, was they were taking millions, not hundreds of thousands of Chinese dissidents and shooting them. So when we were in military school, in New York, we studied economics of socialism and capitalism. So capitalists go to war, like I went to war with the Marine Corps to fight against communism. And the reason is, like, when you just look at just go to the numbers, just look at the numbers of people that were murdered by socialists. And you'll get a better picture of what's going on in America today. But exactly as Marx said, before Americans could become Marxists or communists, they had to break the American spirit, the entrepreneurial spirit. So the two, you and I right now, they haven't got us yet. I'm sure they're going to try. They've tried on me a number of times so far, but they're going to try and get our entrepreneurial spirit. So all those guys who are going to troll this video and all that, well, they're all freaking communists. Do you know what I mean? They don't want our freedom to say what we want to say. So I'll say it again, as General Boomer said on November 10th, 2020. Gentlemen, we don't fight the Republicans or Democrats. We fight for the Constitution. Right now, you and I are fighting for the Constitution. We're fighting for the freedom of speech, the right to bear arms, and all those other things that make America great. And that's what Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, and all those criminals, they want to take that away from us. That's what I'm saying. But I've been saying this since I came back from Vietnam. So I'm kind of those whack jobs, out there. And the only thing that saved me was I knew how to get rich. And the moment I got rich, you couldn't mess with me. You can't fuck with me. I don't need a job. I don't work in America. I work all over the world. I'm a free human being. Fuck you, commies.
Hell yeah. So, all right. So when I told you the first time we went on and we did our interview, you probably forgot, but I went to college and I was a freshman, and I asked my economics teacher why we couldn't audit the Federal Reserve as a freshman, dropped out of college because I realized he yelled at me, told me to shut up, all this stuff when I asked it, dropped out. I backpacked around the world. I self-published a book, and I sold my first 20,000 copies largely out of the trunk of my car and, slinging little events and stuff. And I put all my energy into this because I realized that the only way that I could ever break out of the system was by getting rich. And so I'm 29. And so from the last 5 years, I've really focused, and my other brand is, done well and all that stuff. And now, after a while, I started making a decent amount of money. I mean, for nowhere near you, but I started to have financial freedom in my life. And I was like, yeah, this is great. And I kind of lost sight of the fact that like what really was happening in the world. And 2020 is really like full circled. That, man, it doesn't matter how much money you have, and
what is worth fighting for?
Yeah.
What is worth fighting for? And if you guys voted for Biden and Kamala Harris and AOC and all that, fuck you guys. You're a bunch of criminals as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, so let me ask you though. All right, so how do we full circle get rich? So how do we actually do it? Like for someone that's listening, they say, okay, there's nothing else I can do except put all my life force energy into getting as rich as I can to protect myself the best I can. I'm broke as shit, or I'm whatever. Maybe I have a good job, but I've never had that much extra money. Robert Kiyosaki, the number one personal finance guy in the world, what do I do?
Well, I tell you, that's why I wrote this book here. And this book is still number one. It was taken down after 7 years by that communist publication called the New York Times. You don't think they're communists, you better wake up. You know what I mean? Just like the Washington Post. But anyway, this is the story of Rich Dad Poor Dad. I decided I better dumb this thing down. You know what I mean? This was simple enough, but I think I'll dumb it down even more. So I came up with this picture here. So this is Rich Dad Poor Dad. Here's Poor Dad. PhD. That's all. He's a good man, great father. But he thought his PhD was everything. And this is my rich dad. This is called a financial statement. And 99% of all graduates leaving college have no idea what a financial statement is, nor do they have. So all this book here is about a financial statement. So when you look at this here, this is a financial statement from my cash flow board game. And the way you learn is by you actually have to fill in your financial statement. So it's very simple. This here is an income statement. This here is called a balance sheet. And this here is called a statement of cash flow. I mean, how long did it take me to teach you that? 30 seconds. That's all. And the next 30 seconds, I go, this is what idiots work for. They work for a job. And this is what the rich work for. They want assets. So when you wrote a book, you created an asset. When I wrote this book, I created an asset. And I still get paid about $500,000 a year. It's not big money, but $500,000 a year from this book written 25 years ago.
Jeez Louise.
And plus, I have my cash flow board games. You know, I do all this stuff. I have 7,000 rental properties. And I pay no taxes legally. That's capitalism. But the trouble is, if you went to school, and the reason the teacher couldn't answer the question about the Federal Reserve Bank, because the Federal Reserve Bank is part of a communist system. It's central. It's called a central bank. Listen to the words again. Central bank. What is communism? Central economics, centrally controlled economics. And so that's what I studied in military school when we were going. So I come out of military school in New York. This is in 1969. I'm all messed up because my poor dad, you know, over here, my poor dad's got this, and he's telling me to go back to school, get my PhD, and he's broke. So I told my dad, I said, PhD, does this stand for poor, helpless, and desperate? You know, I was now like 22, 23 years old, and I was being taught differently. He went to traditional school, Stanford, University of Chicago, you know, communist organizations. And I went to military school. We're taught differently. So if you can understand, that's where the difference begins. It's between your left ear and your right ear and how you view the world. So just saying it again, is most people are still looking for this job. Do you need a job? Do you need a job?
No, I don't.
Congratulations. You beat the system.
It's true. What I've been saying is that, especially with, you know, people that are into cryptocurrency or precious metals, so many of them don't make that much money, and they believe that if they just buy it, they're going to be rich for the next 80 years. And maybe we'll have those crazy of cycles and those prices. But I feel like what's much more important is creating a wealth creation vehicle, creating a business, and especially one that leverages the internet, because you see it needs to be lockdown proof, it needs to be cancelable proof, all these types of things. And it leads to basically having some type of business or income stream or skill that you can monetize without needing to be direct in person. Do you agree with that? Do you agree?
Yeah, you are a hardcore entrepreneur. That's your fucking problem. I know. I agree. You know, the definition of intelligence is if you agree with me, you're intelligent. You're very, man. But what you're saying here, you see, you look inside here in the asset column. Most people are saving dollars. You know how stupid that is? You have got to be a fucking idiot to save dollars. They're printing it faster than you can even think about it. You know, they're going to print another 50 trillion or something like this. So I started when I was your age. I just started saving silver at 17, and I started saving gold. So today I'm a multimillionaire in silver and gold. But I also had income from my books, my games, and 7,000 rental units. So I have income, but not from a job. I have income from assets, the same as you did when you created your book. You created income from an asset, a tangible. Yeah, I started in the nylon and Velcro surfer wallet business. I was in rock and roll and doing all this goofy stuff. But I was practicing building assets that produced income. So my cash flow game produces a lot of income, lots. But when this book came out, Who Stole My Pension, came out in January of 2020, it was immediately sold to 50 publishing houses throughout the world. So from day one, money started coming in from this. This thing still pumps out around 450 to 500,000 a year after 25 years.
Dude, that's amazing for a book. Like, for people that don't understand, most people never even, the average book, 95% of books never sell 2,500 copies. I know that because I published 2 books with Penguin Random House, and I did, very well by standards of the statistics, but I'm like a beggar on the sidewalk compared to what you did with your books. And so I can't imagine 25 years. I'm not even making that 5 years later from my books. It's all from my online brand. So for people that don't know, to sell that many books still is, first of all, it's just mind blowing. But also, Robert, everything that you've taught for so long this year has been the most crash course learning system to realize you're right, and right beyond ways you could have imagined, because you're seeing with everyone losing their jobs from lockdowns, businesses having to get shut down by the government. So people are losing jobs. You're seeing how important it is to truly have a business more than anything in the entire world. And it's crazy to realize it.
So that's why you're doing so well, because all of your income is generated in here, Mr. Ducey. You're a hardcore capitalist. You see, Trump only derives income from in here. That's where they hate him. See, the Federal Reserve Bank, they got to get their salaries. Hillary Clinton and Obama and Biden, my friend works for the CIA. He says they're the biggest criminals he's ever seen. They have to make money the old-fashioned way. They steal it from the public. But anyway, but you're a hardcore entrepreneur. So that's why I wrote this book here, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. If you can generate all your income from in here, you won't pay taxes. If you save gold, silver, and Bitcoin, you're a free man, free human being. They can't fuck with you.
Amen. So first of all, this is a good day whenever I get to talk to Robert, and it's a really good day when I'm actually getting compliments from Robert right now. So it's good news. No, in all seriousness, but let me ask you then, so I guess true or false real quick, and we can then talk a little bit more about precious metals and crypto and stuff. I think that as a warning to people that are investing in crypto or Bitcoin or gold or silver, it's a warning to not underestimate. There's many of those people that still have jobs and they take their excess savings, which is great, but they forget about the importance of developing an additional sources of income, multiple sources of income, building a business. Do you agree, true or false, that is where everyone listening should be spending as much energy as they can?
Well, we're all different. Like I said, you and I are intelligent because we agree with each other. There's a lot of people listening right now who hate what we're saying.
Yeah.
We're going to get trolled. And they're going to wear their Chairman Mao suits and Biden, Kamala Harris suits, and the I love Hillary suits. And, this is a free world. But I think what you're talking about really here is, what do you really want to think? And what you said to me, which I heard, is you wanted to get rid of a job as fast as possible.
Yeah.
And when you don't need a job and you can make money throughout the world, no matter where you go, and you can save gold, silver, and Bitcoin, and it's all my stuff offshore legally. You can do it illegally, but I do it legally. So it was really a matter of looking at what the communist school system was teaching us. Go to school, get a job, work hard, save money, get out of debt, pay taxes, and invest in the stock market. I said, do I look like a fucking loser? I just knew better. I went to military school. I had a rich dad, and I just couldn't drink the Kool-Aid. Like I said, when the jet pulled up at Norton Air Force Base on January 3rd, 1973, too, America had changed. Those communists protesting us went into the school system. They infected Silicon Valley. But when you said I don't want a job, you make sense to me. But to do that, you're going to have to understand a financial statement, and you want all of your income coming from assets, not from a job. And you look at people with a job, your first line item expense is called taxes. But they don't teach you that in school. So Trump doesn't pay taxes. You know why? Because he doesn't have a job.
It's weird how it's so hard for people to understand that.
Yeah, because there's three types of income, okay? There's earned income, which is job. There's income from savings, that's earned income. So the two worst ways to make money is to have a job and save money. It's
weird how people don't understand it.
Yeah, and then the income you get from here, which is portfolio and passive income. So there's three types: ordinary, portfolio, passive, comes from down here. And that's why Trump doesn't pay tax. That's why I don't pay tax. But we make millions because we're capitalists. And it drives a socialist crazy. You know, all these Hollywood actors and NBC and CBS, you know, like I don't know some of the, like Wolf Blitzer on CNN and all that. They all have jobs. They pay a lot of taxes. So when I pop up, you know, there's Jap in the box. And I say, fuck you, I don't pay taxes.
They don't like it.
I'm not saying don't pay taxes. I'm just saying this is the way it really is, sports fans. So that's why I'm very proud of my uncle here. You know, when those guys called me a racist, I went, oh my God.
This guy commented and he was saying for the Kiyosaki interview, he was going to play a drinking game. He was going to drink every time you mentioned rich dad, poor dad. And I said it'd be a better idea to drink every time he says the F word. So let me ask you, I got some questions about gold, Bitcoin, but let me ask you, like, I know you're also, since you're a military mind, you really thought about all this stuff. You know, back in March, you were on Danielle Camboni's, or however you pronounce her last name, show, and you were talking about civil unrest, and she was really uncomfortable with it, and the interview ended pretty fast. So it's not something people like to talk about. But when you're thinking in your head, what's your exit plan or your strategy? I mean, do you have a private jet ready to go to get out of America? Are you in America? I mean, are you going to hang in America and just see how it goes for the next while? What is your outlook for your own plan for your life? I know you have tons of gold, tons of silver, tons of Bitcoin, tons of businesses, but what's your plan and how you're assessing the next couple years and decade?
Well, let me give you the big picture, okay? My goal with my wife is to generate $100 million in cash flow. And so all the communists get upset and all this stuff. But what they don't know is we plan to turn that money into another asset and give it all back. So the money, we're not taking any of the money with us. Well, you're dead. You don't need it. But anyway, because if you don't have a plan for your money, the government does. You know?
This is true.
So my wife and I, our goal is to give $100 million a year to charity when we pass on. That's the big overall picture. So on these frickin' bastards, you know, I just go, if you want to vote for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and AOC and Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders, it's a free country. That's your choice. It was not my choice. Just respect my choice. I respect yours. So that's a long way of saying it, is that I have an overall plan. And I'm just going to give it all back. I don't need the money. It's just been a game. You know what I mean? It's like playing football or soccer or baseball. It's just a game. I like the game. You like the game. You won't quit. If I said I'm going to fire you, you say, well, you can't fire me because I'm only doing what I want to do. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're on the path to becoming rich no matter what happens. So if they take it all away, I'll move to Zimbabwe. you know, I can do the same thing out of Zimbabwe. Take my little cell phone. I've always wanted to, live in other parts of the world. I just go there. With my cell phone and my brain, I'm dangerous. They can't stop us anymore. Am I correct? I mean, could you move to Mexico across the border and do the same thing?
I could go technically anywhere. That's why I'm asking you. I mean, but it sounds like you're saying you're not going anywhere unless it got bad enough.
What I'm saying, I already left.
You're not in America right now? Oh, okay, got it. So all you got to do is hop on a private jet and you're out of the country.
That's why I like Bitcoin, because the trouble with all my gold and silver, it's heavy.
Yeah, right. Especially if you have silver.
Yeah, I got so much of it. It's like, geez, I'm just going to give it back. So I don't really have this attachment to it. But when I started getting into Bitcoin, I was going, oh my God, it's a number in my head. It's outside the US system. That's what I loved about it. I said, oh my God. The guy's Japanese too. What's his name? Satoshi or something? But anyway, I say to all the young people, if you went to school, you got fucked. You got fucked. They shut your mind down.
I agree.
They told you needed a job and needed to pay taxes, you needed to save money and give your money to Wall Street. Well, anybody who's doing that is a sucker. Yeah, you're a sucker. You don't have to do that anymore. When that cell phone, when Steve Jobs invented the iPhone, which I think he did, who knows? He set us all free. All you need is a cell phone in your brain and you can go anywhere.
All right, so let's talk about gold and Bitcoin and silver, but quick yes or no. Do you have a passport in another country?
No.
No, you only got an American passport?
It's not that I don't have one. I'm still researching it. But the first thing I did about 20 years ago is I moved all my gold and silver out of this country. But that goes back to a book that was published in 1957, was written by Ayn Rand. It's called Atlas Shrugged. And what she talked about there was when the socialists take over the economy, which they have, the capitalists go into hiding. So one of the things I write about in Rich Dad, Poor Dad is how guys like me are in hiding in plain sight. Try and catch me.
Interesting. I mean? Yeah, it's interesting. I heard you one time in an interview say that a while ago that about your gold and silver. So did you pay capital gains tax and then rebuy it again outside of the...
The trouble was, it was getting to be such a pain in the ass because there was so much of it.
Yeah, right, I bet.
No, because if you understand, I don't need money. When you have no job and you have no need of money, I borrow all my money. So like just last week, I was, this property came up for sale. It was $30 million. Now, most people don't have $30 million. Well, neither do I, but the bank does. So I go to Mr. Banker and I hold up my little financial statement. I said, I got a $30 million property here. Can you lend me the $30 million to buy the property? Got it?
And then he says yes, and then you don't pay any taxes on top of it, and you rinse and repeat that process.
Because debt is tax-free money.
And then you move all of your savings into gold, silver, and Bitcoin, and then you rinse and repeat that cycle. Yeah.
I've been doing it since I was your age.
So that's like my question, like personally, like we're also on an interview, but if I was sitting in your living room and we were having a glass of wine and like hanging out and I could like ask you like mentor questions, I got 3 books. 2 of them were published with Penguin Random House. I moved everything online. I got another YouTube channel with 600,000 subscribers. I have info products, personal development space. I used to do all the speeches, but everything's online. And I saved my first over 7 figures, but I didn't trust the system. So I never invested my money. I never got a Roth IRA. It just sat in my checking account. And I was just like, grow business, get rich, must escape system. And then all of this happened, recently, starting with the repo markets and then all this stuff. So I had been studying you guys hardcore, you and Jim. And then I started investing heavy into physical silver, physical gold, then some mining stocks, then some Bitcoin. But I just have my online brands. And I think like, well, how do you get to like, I realize $1 million isn't a lot of money. I need like 5 to 10 where I can like start to like actually buy the freedom that I guess you need from the governments. Like, how do you get to I listen, I'm like, I hear you and I hear you say, and I did a $30 million deal. And I'm like, it feels so like, I'm like, how do I it feels unattainable. I don't own any real estate. I guess maybe that would explain part of that answer, but I'm like, how do you get to 5 million and 10, like those kinds, and like a net worth that allows you to, really be free? Because, $1 million doesn't buy you that. It's not that much anymore.
Well, if I thought you were on the wrong track, I would tell you you're on the right track. You've used the key words in there. You're building a brand. Okay, when you look at this word here, okay, this is book number 2, Rich Dad Poor Dad, E, S, B, and the I. So E stands for employee, S stands for small business specialist or self-employed. This is book 2. B stands for big business, 500 employees or more, and I stands for insider. I don't buy stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and ETFs because that would make me an outsider. I always want to be inside on the deal. So one of my friends is another Marine pilot. He's first round investor in Facebook, Uber, and Bitcoin. He was buying Bitcoin at 3 cents a unit.
Holy crap.
And he was already rich before that.
Jeez Louise.
Because he had Facebook. So what you're doing is, it takes time to learn. It takes time to learn to be a pro golfer. It takes time to learn to be a pro football player. It takes time, anything. But it's what are you doing with the time? So as you keep pushing your brain and thinking and making mistakes, learning, talking to different people, you're pushing your brain. So my goal was, when I was about your age, was to start a brand. A brand is the most powerful force in business. You look at Apple. What is Apple worth? What is Microsoft worth? What is Amazon worth? What is Uber worth? It's a brand. When you get old guys like Warren Buffett, he only buys brands. So that's why he owns BVD, underwear. He owns Gillette, Coca-Cola. So this is what they don't teach you. So I hear it in your language, in your words. You're working for this and this, but it takes time to get there. These guys will never get there because they always have to have a paycheck. I want a safe, secure job with a paycheck and benefits. That mindset is okay. It'll keep them trapped, though. And this here.
So I have an S corp. When I was younger and I did it,
hang on one second. S corp's different than this. S stands, I'm a specialist. What that means is, like a doctor is a specialist. So I go see a doctor. He or she is a specialist. They pay the highest taxes. So the smart students pay the highest taxes, but they'll never tell you that. Over here, these guys pay 40% in tax. This is all over the world. It's the same. They pay 60% in tax. Over here it pays 20, and over here is 0. The reason real estate is important is, for me to get to 0, I have to have real estate. So it was just part of an educational process I went through. So when I came back from Vietnam in 73, immediately I signed up for a real estate course so I could learn how to buy real estate for no money down. And once I could do that, I was free. But all I'm saying is that it's education and teachers and what you look for. Most of your generation is still looking for that high-paying job with Goldman Sachs.
Right.
Or they want to go back to school, become a doctor or a real estate agent or something like that. That's fine. It's a different choice. This is a different journey. And what I sense about you right now, you're on this journey. It's going to take time. But if you really want to understand this quadrant, a big part of it is real estate. because real estate is tax-free. That's why Trump doesn't pay taxes.
So I have 5 people that work for me. I've got a quote unquote small business, and it's all my brand built around me online, and we do well. But I realized as I started to do well, then the tax bill came around, and I had good profits, and I'm not a big materialistic spender. I still don't own a house. I still rent, and I write it off and all that. So I realized I got clobbered on taxes. And so you're saying the next step to go from being a small business, and I don't trade my time for money with a business. I have products and services that are independent of me. So I got that aspect. But then the next step to get to towards the Robert Kiyosaki level is that we, the listeners, then you take your profit, and that's where real estate comes into handy.
You got to invest in real estate education. It's the same as, I'm not against stocks or bonds. I took stock option trading for 3 years. I'm not I'm not good. My brain doesn't work that way. I'm a real estate guy. I'm slow. So you got to find out what works for you. But the beauty of real estate is you use debt. Let me show it again to you. $30 million property. I borrow $30 million here. Money.
Right.
But that takes time to do, and it takes partners. It takes very smart guys. It takes accountants, attorneys. It takes a whole team to get you there. But you're on your way. Do you know what I mean? Very few people can say, well, I was born that way, unless you're Trump's kids. And they're pretty smart kids, and they're good kids. Don Jr. and Eric, they're fantastic young men. But they were born into it. You and I were not. So we had to learn more than they did. They started at a higher level of financial education.
Understood.
Just like that friend of mine who was first round financing into Facebook and Uber and Bitcoin, his father got him there. He also went to Yale.
Yeah, right. I understand. Great. I'm so glad we could break that down a little.
White privilege. It's called white privilege.
That's funny. So let me ask you, Robert, when gold went over let's talk gold and silver and all that Bitcoin. So when gold went over 2,000, you sent a tweet out and you said, I'm out, basically. You said I'm out of gold. And there was a lot of people that were like, oh my gosh, Robert's out of gold. And it almost scared some people because you've been such a big advocate. People were like, is Robert selling all of his gold? Were you just saying the price was getting too high? And then now that we've kind of had a pullback to probably allow the banks to get their positions right before a 2021 slingshot, are you buying more back at 18? Did you sell all your gold? What was that tweet, and where are you at with gold?
No, it had reached a peak, exactly. And it was going to retrace. It's called the Golden Cross. It was forming, it's on the line. It's go like this on the charts. It goes, okay, it's going to retrace back to probably 1800. So I don't know if that's true or not, but I stopped buying at 1800.
Got it.
The story. The same as Bitcoin. I stopped buying at 9, and now I wish I had bought more. But,
so you stopped buying at 9,000?
Yeah.
Got it.
It was my price, and there's another guy called Marin Katusa. He's Katusa Research. He's worth listening to. Same as George Gammon and Anthony Pompliano. Those guys are really, really good in their fields. But Marin Katusa talks about, I think he calls it the alligator. And the alligator is this prehistoric beast who can control its own metabolism. And you and I are kind of alligators. We can sit there, wait, time it, and then when you bite, you bite. But you have to know when to bite. So you wait. It's called patience. But you have to know where it's going. So like Jim Records and I are writing another book together, our first book together. It's called The Ravens. And he says he doesn't worry about the price of gold because he knows where it's going. I don't worry about the price of silver because I know where it's going. But it goes up and it comes down. It goes, that's the natural circadian rhythms of the universe going up and down. So as it goes up, it's going to come down. So Bitcoin, I think, is around 18,000 today. And I started buying at 9 because it just sounded, it was just the time to bite. Now I wish I'd put more, but I didn't. I wish I had bought it at 3 cents like my friend did, but I didn't, you know what I mean? So I can live in the past. But the point here is that that's what you learn with time. It takes time to learn when to bite as an alligator and when not to. Or you can be somebody who just sits on the sideline and criticizes the rich, which most of these guys are doing. So that's a big difference there.
Yeah, it's a big waste of energy when you realize that it doesn't actually help you end up getting any more of it. So let me ask you then, what are you buying right now when you have cash? Are you buying gold, silver, or Bitcoin right now?
Well, that's why I'm working with Marin Katusa. We're coming out with a documentary. And my real teacher was a guy named Buckminster Fuller. They call him the world's friendly genius. He did the geodesic dome and all this, but he was a futurist. But he said exactly what the Green New Deal is saying. If you get this, we're not, the Green New Deal, the socialists are going to print trillions of dollars and give the money to green energy. It's already started. So the sad thing about it is the socialists won't get any of it because they're socialists. But the capitalists are going, the government's handing out money. Thank you very much. So the capitalists will get rich again because it's all going Green New Deal. So you look at solar energy and all that, that's going through the roof right now. So Green New Deal is the new future. Now, the communists who are against capitalists, they won't even know what's happening because they don't watch those capital markets. So there's always an opportunity, but the guys are getting screwed are old guys like me because they're in oil. Do you realize Exxon right now, they had to borrow money to pay a dividend?
Wow.
If you have any idea what that means.
Yeah, it's not good.
The old guys like me are fucked.
So what does that have to, I asked you, what are you buying right now? Gold, silver, or Bitcoin? Did you say that because instead of buying gold, silver, or Bitcoin, you are positioning yourself into renewable energy companies right now?
I'm an alligator right now watching renewable energy, Green New Deal. So, God bless Ocasio-Cortez, even though screwed up as she is, she's going to make me a rich man, which I appreciate.
So what are you doing with Marin? Are you guys looking to buy companies together? Is that why you mentioned him? Yeah. Interesting.
He's worth following, like you're worth following and all this. You've got to find the guys who are going where you want to go in thought. None of us knows everything. None of us. It's impossible. But you've got to find the thought leaders. So, I've been a friend of Marin and I started off in the same business. I took a gold company public in China through the Toronto Stock Exchange. I took a silver company from Argentina public through the Toronto Stock Exchange. So Marin and I hung out in Vancouver. He's a lot younger than me, but he's a calculus teacher. The guy is very smart, but he understands the resource industry. And I was talking to him the other day. He says, it's going green. Everything is going green. So the socialists will be right, and they have to. We have to stop this climate change and all. I don't know whether it's true or not, but the fires in California and the tornadoes and the hurricanes and all that, somebody's got to do something. So oil companies are getting screwed. So all those guys who invest in Exxon for dividends, what they do not know is Exxon had to borrow money to pay the dividend.
Right. So then somebody like me could move more into the I quadrant by, say, you had a deal and you were like, Jake, we're bringing a couple more people on, and then you're inside like that, then that moves you to that last leg of the quadrant.
Yeah, but you got to be careful because there's a lot of flakes out there.
Right. So you're not buying any more gold, silver, or Bitcoin. Everything's going into establishing some new wealth creation vehicles right now.
Well, if Bitcoin goes back to 9, I'm buying as much as I can.
So let me ask you, self-explanatory for gold and silver. You've been a bull on it forever, and Jim says it's going north of 50,000. There is a point at which, when the central banks, it's in their interest for the price to go up at some point because the only thing on their balance sheet. So at some point, you would think they play the reverse side of it. So you figure it's going higher. You figure with the renewables, especially silver's going a lot higher because of that component as well. Also the monetary component of it. And you've said, you intend to never sell that. What about your Bitcoin? Do you have the same philosophy that you have for your gold and silver? Or are you looking at it like it goes to 75,000 and you're out the game?
No, like I said, our goal is to just give $100 million away to charity. So all you trolls out there who criticize capitalism, fuck you guys. How much are you going to give? No, really, I'm serious. I don't care if you're a socialist or a communist and all this. The question is, what good are you doing for society? That's the question. You can criticize anybody you like, but it's what good are you doing? And that's my whole life. I just, like you, I just never wanted a job. My wife, Kim, never wanted a job. When I met her, my wife, Kim, was in network marketing just because she wanted to get out of her job so bad. She was willing to do anything. And then she became an expert in network marketing and real estate. But you have to want to get out of where you're at. And most of these guys are trying to hope to go back to school to get a job when there's other people who are trying to get out of the job. So that's a difference in mindset. One's not right or wrong. But for all the trolls that criticize and will say, well, you guys are just greedy bastards, I say, well, just how much are you going to give when you die? How many jobs have you created? Question. You know what I mean? Those are valid questions. So I think that's how we measure our own individual lives. We're all different. We're all different values. You know what I mean? There'll always be these people. Always. There'll always be people who want jobs. People want to be the smartest guy, the specialist. If you want it done right, do it by yourself. There'll always be the person who wants, okay, now how can I make a brand so big just to see if I could do it? And I did it. And then who wants to be the inside of every deal? So the reason I talk to like Marin and Anthony Pompliano and George Gammon and even Peter Schiff's a friend of mine, as crazy as he is. But I listen to everybody. I don't have to agree with everybody, but I need to listen to everybody. People I respect anyway. So I don't really respect AOC at all. I mean, she's a good-looking young woman, but what has she ever done? She's a fucking bartender with a big mouth. But that's what she does. She's charismatic. She's going to be a big leader. No, I don't doubt that. But so is Adolf Hitler. They're in the same category.
Yeah, so you've really given an amazing interview. I know you're super busy, and it has been over an hour. So I would ignore the time and keep going for 8 hours if I have the chance to talk with you, but I don't want to take up too much of your time. Hopefully we can reconvene a little bit in the future if you're open to that. Can you give us kind of some more of your final thoughts on everything? We hear your thoughts on gold, silver, Bitcoin. You think all of them have a lot of room to run, and you're putting your energy into building more wealth creation vehicles. That's obvious by your answer when you said you're looking for positions in energy companies when I asked you if you're buying gold or silver or Bitcoin, which kind of proves my original point that I said at the beginning. I said people get so focused on buying gold, silver, and Bitcoin and thinking they're going to get rich from it alone. And instead they miss the most important thing, which is a wealth creation vehicle. And I just asked you if you're buying them and you basically said no, you're putting your energy into wealth creation vehicles. Kind of proves my point, which is cool.
Okay, let me say it again. Okay, there's income statement, balance sheet, statement of cash flow. This is rich dad here. This is poor dad, high-paying job. And they pay a lot of taxes. So this is Trump and myself here. People hate him. This is Biden, Obama, and Clinton. Criminals. And we all know that. But so what? That's the real world. The question is, what are you going to do? And that's why I have tremendous respect for a young man. I mean, you ask great questions and all that, but your head's going in kind of the freedom direction. If you don't want a job, good. If you don't need a paycheck, good. If you don't need a stock market, good. You're free. You can go anywhere in the world you want, but it's all up here anyway, same as Bitcoin. So I stopped buying Bitcoin at 9. If it goes back to 9, I'm buying more, but I don't buy it because I'm chasing it. I don't chase gold. I don't chase silver. So when it hits a peak, it always comes back down. So be an alligator, just wait and then bask in the sun and bite when you have to bite.
Good stuff, Robert. Yeah, this was, I truly appreciate it. For everyone listening, please make sure you hit the like button on either side right over there. Go ahead and reread Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and make sure you leave a comment down below. Let me know how many times Robert said the F word in this.
I'm not, when I joined the Marine Corps, there was all of these guys. There was Air Force, Navy, Coast Guard, Army, and Marine Corps. And the Marine stands up there, and he gets up there, and this is a recruiting system. There was like 600 of us in this room in New York. And it says, okay, if you guys want to save people's lives, join the Coast Guard. You want to kill people, join the Marines.
That's funny.
And I said, I think I'm going to be a Marine.
Well, the good thing now is you're kind of saving lives by helping people be able to understand how to escape the matrix, and that's what you've done. And now a lot of things that you've said over the last 20 years are starting to happen. And your teachings have never been, they're timeless. I mean, they've never been more important.
Can I give you the reason? Why did I choose the Marines? If I was going to war, who would you go with?
Shoot, I'm glad you're on my team, dude. If you were my neighbor.
And so I didn't want some half commie Coast Guard guy. I mean, they were, but they're trying to save lives. I'm trying to kill them as fast as I can. So
I would feel comfortable if I was I would feel so good if I was your neighbor right now. You know.
It's not right. It's not right or wrong. That's what I'm trying to say to people.
Right.
Choose your team. So I didn't even want to spend my life trying to save people. I just want to have more fun shooting them. that was the decision. It's very simple, black or white.
All right, Robert, I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to being able to do this again sometime. And I do really appreciate your generosity with your time.
Thank you. I appreciate you. You're going in my opinion, the right direction. But everybody else will probably say you're going in the wrong direction. That's life,
No, I trust you. Thank you, Robert.
Thank you.